Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Kane again. So this is the second Kane daily in a row, which is something that happened with Eve not too long ago, but that's just due to variance. There's nothing special going on. But what is special is that we're going to Mega Satan, which is a daily that happens sometimes. It doesn't happen too often, I think, just because there's so many end goals, and one of them is maybe not as prevalent as the others. But whenever you have a Mega Satan daily, you know that you're in for the long haul, which means that not only do you have to beat the game like you normally would, you also have to kind of keep in mind a few things that maybe oftentimes you wouldn't even think about. So you have to consider which items to take whenever you're trying to fight Mega Satan. But just because Mega Satan is such a unique boss fight, you don't want to just take any item to beat him, because sure, it helps if you're like super overpowered and you can just kill him in one shot. But most often than not, certain items just don't work really well against him. So, for example, an item that might not work against him is Lost Contact. And that's an item that whenever you shoot your tears, they can actually block the enemy tears. And against Mega Satan, you can imagine, especially the second phase, if your maybe tear rate is slow enough, there's just no way you're going to hit him. And in those scenarios, you can't afford to take that item. But of course, not only that, there's much more importantly, I think, is you have to catch both Boss Rush and Hush, and together they're gonna give you 10,000 points, and a run that goes to Mega Satan usually nets up in total of 50,000 points. So that means that just those two objectives give you about a fifth of your total score, which is obviously a lot, so you really don't want to miss them. And in order not to do that, I thought this was something that was very self-apparent, but the more you play, you realize just how hard it is sometimes to actually try to explore as much as possible and kind of keep balance so you're fast enough to be able to actually get to Boss Rush and Hush at the same time. Because you also have to beat Boss Rush, then you kind of need to do it fast enough, so then you can explore the Womb 1 and the Womb 2 or the Utero floors to actually get to Hush as well. So what ends up happening, you usually have to do those floors in like 5 or 6 minutes, depends on how strong your run is up to that point. But even more importantly, before you get to Boss Rush, you also have 6 rooms to explore. So there's obviously a lot of considerations to be done there. And I think, like I said, I really thought these things are obvious. Sure, there's really nothing to do. Whenever you see the mark hit at 6 minutes, that's your cue to get out of the floor and don't explore forward. But what ends up happening, just because this is Isaac, you get these floors that maybe have complicated patterns, you end up running into dead ends all the time. Maybe you have items that just don't allow you to go fast, and you're just unlucky, I guess, and you finish the second floor by 7 minutes, and you're at a big disadvantage there when you really shouldn't be. So for that reason, you kind of need to consider which items to take and not. So for example, in this situation, the Fair Shot item, the Dark Matter, usually I wouldn't take it just because I really don't like how the fear affects the game, in the sense that it makes the enemy's patterns unpredictable. It is a damage up, so I think on average it's a good pickup, but I really avoided it for the longest time, but I don't think it's really worth it, just because that extra little bit of damage that I previously considered to be negligible will help us. Just the fact that it takes one less shot to kill an enemy can often be the difference in us beating a floor in maybe 2 minutes and in 2.5 minutes, and usually those half-minute intervals, just 10 seconds maybe, is something that ends up giving you the win, or maybe giving you enough time to get to those important objectives. And not only that, there are a lot of micro decisions you can do to be faster. So one of those I mentioned. So you kind of have to keep a mental tally of the floors. So for example, my mental tally is that I try to do every floor in 3 minutes. So the first floor 3 minutes, second floor 3 minutes. So that means that, for example, the 4th floor, I want to exit it at the 12th minute mark. If it's over that, I'll try to rush the next floor just a little bit more. And if it's less than that, then I can be more lax about it. And I can actually take my time and explore and maybe try to break the game, play the arcade or something like that. So that is one way you can kind of control yourself, and that's what I try to do most of the time. Also, one thing that I only recently learned is that it's okay to backtrack. I avoided backtracking for the longest time. I just chose a path and always went in a direction that I thought was the longest. But what ends up happening sometimes is when you go down a path on your minimap and maybe you think the other way is better for some reason, maybe there's a clue, for example, you find a second secret room, and you know for sure that the second secret room, the way it spawned, means that the boss room must be close. It's okay not to go in a direction that you think will lead to a dead end, but it's okay to just go around and maybe try a different route. And sometimes what I find is it's also okay to just maybe explore your surroundings and then decide on a path. And that is something that I would never do before, and that's a strategy I employed in this run in particular, and I think they worked out well. Also the fact that this run wasn't very mazy, so it didn't have a lot of dead ends. So maybe that was a contributor to the fact that my so-called strategy worked. And one last tip I would have for you is, whenever you see a coin dropping on the ground, so whenever you clear a room and you see the consumables drop, they usually have an animation. For example, a coin, what happens is the coin is tossed in the air and then it's placed on the ground. So there's like this little animation that takes maybe a second. And what I would do usually is just wait for it and then pick it up whenever it drops and then go into the next room. But what's even better, so to kind of minimize the time you spent on the floor, is try to beat the room as fast as possible and position yourself as close to the exit to the next room you want to explore. So when you finish the room, you can immediately exit it and go to the next room. And then hopefully what's going to happen is when you're going to backtrack, the item, because when you exit the room and enter it back, the animation of the item will be gone, so you don't have to deal with that again. And you can just pick it up on the way back. So that's maybe a few tricks that might improve your run. And like I said, that animation really is just 1 second long, but they start adding up. So if you wait in every room, maybe in every third room, you have to wait for the animation, then you have to go to the exit. And maybe, like I said, that's just a second of your time, but when you do it maybe throughout 20, 30 rooms, it adds up to 30 seconds, and 30 seconds, like I said, can be the moment of you missing an objective and getting to it in time. So thankfully, I didn't really talk much about this run, and that's just because it was very uneventful up until this point. We got the fair shot, which I showed previously, which was our only damage up to this point, and a tame, which was also in the same boss room. Thankfully, what happened, because there was Curse of the Unknown, we didn't know which items we were picking, so I just decided to pick the right one for a random reason. I don't usually pick left or right one, I just pick up maybe, just whatever feels right, I guess. And it turned out to be double shot, so I'm very thankful that we managed to get that one, because double shot essentially doubles your DPS. And the fact we have also Head of the Keeper, which means we shoot coins, there's also a higher chance of us to actually spawn more money. So that's maybe just another alternative way for us to generate some swag bonus, which is something that you generally want to do, especially on runs that go for a long time. You can really amass a lot of coins. So like in this case, because I have double shot, and I shoot quite fast, and there are a lot of enemies that are maybe tanky, especially Hush or something like that. Whenever we shoot, there's double the chance of us actually getting a coin, because we have double shot, obviously. So that, I think Head of the Keeper is a great item. Also, another maybe alternative benefit that you don't think about much is that when we shoot coins, we actually have a chance to spawn lucky coins, and the lucky coins increase our chance of fearing enemies. And I did mention that I don't like fear that much, just because it does make the enemies just a bit unpredictable, and I think that's exactly right. But also, at the same time, what it can do for you is actually increase your dodging potential in a room. I try to say the way you kind of move around the room, but that's not really true, because the point I'm trying to make is, so you make the enemies turn around from you, which means that there's more space on this place you're standing, which means you can focus on one certain enemy. But yeah, at the same time, like I said, the fact that the enemies will run away from you whenever they are feared will cause you to kind of have to chase them down, which means that the enemies will take longer to kill on average. And remember, when I just keep harping on about these seconds that add up in the end, and I would just like to show you just how close we were to actually getting to Hush here. I do miss it, which is a little bit of a spoiler, but you'll see. I use all my bombs, I hit most of them, and the fact we have double shot and the Lil Gish, I just try to go in. At this point, I actually tried to kill her, but we missed it by a second. If there was no animation, maybe we would have gotten it, but there was the animation, and sadly we missed it. Maybe what I should have done is just forgot about my health and just ram it in. Especially maybe at the last quarter of her health, I could have gotten away with it, just getting hit once and then using my orbital to finish her off, the Mom's Heart boss fight, I mean. And I think that would have worked, and for some reason I didn't think of that. I really thought I had enough time. Like I said, I saw 5 seconds, okay, I just need a few more hits, maybe one more bomb, and I'm gonna be able to kill her. But sadly, I ran out of bombs, and she managed to hit me, and then I realized that maybe I should have used my orbital, but it was too late at that point, and she just died before I could get to Hush, which is a bummer, because it was totally doable there, especially with the fact that I managed to find both boss rooms on this floor and the previous floor quite fast. And I think that's due to me talking about the strategy about maybe switching rooms in which order I explore them, because I never committed to a full path, and then I was like, oops, I'm in a ditch, I'm in the dead end. But what happened is I went into a path, and I was like, okay, I think this is leading to a dead end, and then I turned around just for one room to see if it's maybe leading to a better way, and then maybe I found a big room. And whenever there's a big room nearby, usually big rooms are worth exploring later on because they connect to more rooms, which means that there's a higher chance that they actually lead to the boss fight. And then you maybe go to the big room, and then you can start based on the map, you can see where the longest path is, because on the longest path is usually where the boss will spawn, so you can use that to your advantage. You know that the longest path from the spawn will not be near the spawn, so you try to maybe avoid the direction of your spawn, and you try to go as far away from it as possible. So let's say you have a big room which has an entrance or an exit and an entrance, they're both the same thing really, on the bottom right side and on the top right side. So what you could do if your start is from the left bottom side, you know that it's more likely that the longest path will be on the top right side, just because that way you can't loop around, I guess, to your start. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, like with contextual clues and just how the map is generated, you can make some, I think, good guesses and estimates into which direction to go to maybe maximize your chances of finding a boss room. I was also talking about less contact on the start of this floor, and I mentioned it's a bad item for the Satan boss fight, and I wouldn't pick it up if I didn't have double shots. And actually our tear rate was pretty good due to some tear up pills and some items. And the fact we have, like I said, 2 of basically the same shot means that our potency of shielding tears is doubled. And especially on this floor, because there are a lot of enemies which just shoot at us, having shielding tears which defend us from enemies just increases our survivability by so much. What happened is I basically didn't even I only got hit once on the previous 2 floors, so on this floor and the last floor, and one of those hits was from Isaac, and one of those holy beam shots which are random and you can't really dodge, and the other hit is done by Mega Satan in the second phase towards the very near end of the fight, which just goes to show that like I said, the lost contact is an item that can really screw you over, or in this situation it really helped me, and hopefully you'll see just its potency in this fight as I'm doing it. So the first thing I do is use my perk spill, which I've been saving for the last 2 floors, and what the perk spill does is basically reduces the damage you take by a half, which also in turn means that the damage will receive, or the damage penalty will receive, is reduced by half. So instead of taking 1 full heart of damage, you won't take half a heart of damage. And let's say that a full heart of damage is worth 300 points. In this case, we would only lose 150 points. And this perk spill lasts for the whole boss fight. And I think there's some damage up associated to it, but I'm not really sure about that. I'm really in it just for the damage penalty. Or reduced damage penalty, I guess is a better way to put it. You get in some hairy situations here with the champion sim bosses, the champion horses of the apocalypse, just because one of them does spawn the troll bombs and the other one does have the homing shots. I really dislike that. I don't know if I ever mentioned it, but I think that is one of my least favorite bosses to fight against. It's just the first phase when he starts throwing out these sides, because I really think the sides are hard to dodge, and if you don't have enough damage on a weak run, they can just mess you up so badly, and it really feels like there's no way for you to kind of dodge him, especially because there's a lot of small rooms where you fight him, and also a lot of rooms where there are rocks inside. You just don't have the way to maneuver around in order to effectively dodge both his attacks and the enemy's spawns and things like that. So I really don't like that as a boss fight. I like all the others, Horsemen of the Apocalypse, I think they're sweet and nice. I think War is kind of cute, but Death is just horrible. It's just, I really don't like him. Thankfully, what happens with Mega Satan here is you know that your damage is good based on just how many minions he spawns, and usually there are a few set spawns that you have to fight, like the Apocalypse and the Ultra Sins and things like that, and then the Angels. Those are the essential fights. But if you're not doing enough damage, what he's gonna do, he's still gonna be active and he's gonna start spawning smaller bosses. So maybe just a regular Sin, or maybe regular Lust, or maybe a pin fight or something like that. And at the same time, you still have to fight Mega Satan, so he's still gonna be active. So the fact that this only happened to us once and it was just Lust gave me an indication that this run is actually pretty strong. And thankfully, because we do have shielded tears, we are able to dodge, or not dodge, but I guess block a lot of the tears that the enemy shoot at us. and also all of the tiers, all the bullet hell tiers that Mega Satan pulls at us. And the fact, of course, we have double the shots actually it makes us able to contest his shots. One thing that I thought about is it really seemed like a struggle whenever he did one of his bullet hell attacks. I wish there were beam struggles, like maybe something from Dragon Ball. If you had Brimstone and he shot Brimstone at you, you know, it would be really cool if there was like this beam struggle where they collided and clashed. And maybe depending on how much damage you do, or maybe there would be like a mini game where you had to mash the buttons as fast as possible, or whatever. I'm just brainstorming here. And it would be like a beam struggle, like I said, like in Dragon Ball or something like that. That would be really cool, and I hope that I think I should make that mod if it will be possible to do it. Or maybe if you imagine if you had a giant Mega Blast, what could happen is whenever you enter this beam struggle with a boss or maybe any other enemy, because there are a lot of enemies which shoot Brimstone attacks, something like this could happen. And I think that would be like a really cool addition, flavor addition, I guess. Maybe there could be a certain item that makes them possible or something like that. I'm not really sure, but I'll think about it. But the idea seems really, really cool to me. So this is actually the end of the Mega Satan fight. The second phase isn't as bad because just the only thing he does is shoot tears, and the fact we can block tears allows us to kind of survive. And the fact we managed to rank this badly, even though I think we played pretty well, the fact that I only had 2800 damage penalty is really indicative that this was, first of all, a rather strong run. I won't say it was a weak run. Maybe it got progressively better. I think the scale of the run was pretty linear. I never felt weak, but I never felt really strong. And yeah, we did manage to rank 187th. I think a big part of it is the Hush fight, and whenever I read the threads, I noticed that people said that this was actually a pretty strong run, which didn't seem like that strong to me, but like I said, the Isaacs has a lot of variance sometimes, so some people can have a strong run and some people can have a mediocre run like we did, in my opinion. So that said, guys, I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.